to like frame the conversation a little bit, we're talking a little bit about power creep. We're talking a little bit about HP inflation. We're talking about how in Genshin Impact currently, right, the Abyss is one of the most unplayable things that we've seen in pretty much the history of the game. That gets a lot easier, a lot more manageable if you, well, you know, just go ahead and pull all of these new characters. And there have been a lot of things said, a lot of things about like keeping up with the meta, a lot of things about, you know, like, oh, if you're like not pulling the newest units, you shouldn't expect to have a great time. But really, should the time be this bad if you're not pulling those units? Do you think I'm summarizing stuff pretty well, or am I, you know, am I missing some key points over here?
I believe that is your opinion on the topic.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, let's hear a little bit from you then.
So you are of the opinion, from what I can tell, that Spiral Abyss is too difficult without the newer units, or copious amounts of time playing the game? Am I understanding that correctly?
I think that the Spiral Abyss just feels like dog shit if you don't have the newer units.
Okay. It feels like dog shit.
Yeah, it probably is dog shit. Probably not just a feeling.
Okay. Spiral Abyss is quite stale as far as the difficulty rating goes. It hasn't really been hard for a while.
Just as a bit of framing, how often, like how many hours a day do you play Genshin Impact?
Like actively play the game?
Yeah, give or take every day. Like how often you play? How many hours?
Hour and a half?
Hour and a half?
Maybe, because I play like 3 accounts. I'm doing dailies. It takes, on 3 accounts, it takes that long to do dailies. Usually there's an event, so I spend like 30 minutes on the event. On all accounts.
Don't just stream the game for like 6-7 hours a day though?
We yap a lot, bro.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fucking podcast up in here, man.
Gotcha. Okay.
Like if it's fun to play, it'll go for like 3 hours or so. Maybe four.
Yeah.
When there's a new Spiral Abyss, it could be like 6.
So when it's a new Spiral Abyss, you're like grinding floor 12 for like 6 hours a day, basically, when the new Spiral Abyss comes out.
Just one time.
Yeah, just
after
one
that,
time.
we don't even touch it.
Okay,
yeah, one time.
Okay, gotcha.
So like we go. It's not really grinding it. We're like, okay, does this work? No, this doesn't work. Oh, this is work? No, this doesn't work. Oh, this work? Oh yeah, this is dope. So like, we just trying to figure out like what teams are good, what teams aren't good, what was fun, what was not fun, what was lacking, what was strong. That's it. It's just testing to see what was fun and what wasn't good. And like that's it. And it doesn't take much time to maintain the 3 accounts, really. So it's not that bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're 30 minutes a day for every single account, or maybe less, depending on, you know, if you're like skipping events or something. Yeah, that's not too crazy.
Well, it's my job, so I gotta have to do it.
Yeah. True.
So I play HSR and WoW at the same time. So it's a conglomerated effort of about 3 accounts over with Wuthering Waves and Genshin, all done in about 1 hour and 30 minutes. So that's like the total gameplay. And then like after that, it's like a bunch of like, just, did you try this? No, I didn't try this. Did you try this? No, I didn't try this. I don't really want to try this. And that's it. It's nothing like, not like grinding for many hours on end, trying to improve skill issue or like farming lots and lots of resources. It's just chilling.
Yeah, but you know, I think we can all think about it from the perspective of if you're playing every single day, you know, you're grinding the Abyss for 6 hours every time it comes out. But then maybe not touching it that much after that. Yeah, you're keeping yourself up to date on like the latest mechanics, the latest rotations, the latest teams, the latest synergies.
Sure, that's why people watch my stream.
Yeah, you're keeping yourself like very educated on stuff like that, right? So
sure,
you're never really rusty when it comes to this game.
Yeah, that's just how it goes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
That's why I do these things.
Okay. All right. Glad we're able to establish that. So, I guess just to talk a little bit about myself and Genshin Impact. Yeah, I mean, I'm playing this game maybe, what is it, 2 hours a month? Maybe 1 hour a month, something like that, a bit less.
Sure.
Because let's just be honest here, right? The game is, you learn like a couple of rotations for some teams. You learn a couple of rotations for some teams, and then you just kind of like, you know, you get them open up on your notepad. You run through them once or twice, and then you're done, right? You're like, good. You don't really have to do anything else. You learn maybe a couple of like iframes or dodges that you need to do. Each character has only like 2 buttons, right? You learn like a couple of iframes and dodges for like a couple of the bosses. and you kind of just move forward from there, right? And then you just do the same thing over and over again for pretty much every boss or every fight.
There's a lot of fights that's not true on, but
Oh, right. Because there are some bosses that have like elemental shield specific mechanics where you're just not allowed to use specific characters.
Yeah, but that's like every element lockout game. It's just an elemental system game. Like any game with an elemental system has lockouts for elements.
I think that we're being a little bit I do feel like we're being a little bit loose on the definition of elemental lockouts over here, right? Where it's like, oh, you don't want to use this character because it has a boss that it's resistant to, right? Versus,
well, if it's a hydro slime, I ain't gonna bring Nebulet.
Exactly, right? Because you're literally
if it's in Wuthering Waves and they're havoc resistant like crazy, and it's a bunch of havoc enemies, I'm not gonna bring fucking Danshin.
Yeah, I totally understand that. But then we get into the realm of, right, let's just think about the pony, right? That little electro pony that's in the second side of the abyss, where you literally want to make sure you have like your ICDs are lining up. Your ICDs are like lining up to like ensure that you're dealing enough elemental ticks to like break the shield in time. Otherwise, it's gonna start bouncing around like it's in fucking My Little Adventures, you know, stuff like that, right?
I basically can just use Emily and Dea and just watch it fall off from the sky.
Yeah, exactly. There are specific units that, because of like the specific things built into their kit and how much they shill the design of the boss, they make the fight absurdly simple and easy. And if you don't have them in, it becomes an absolute nightmare.
But there's a lot of characters that do that, though. Like, a lot.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good thing.
Wait, to have a lot of characters that can beat the bosses in different ways?
To have bosses that are specifically designed around owning one or two, maybe three characters on the roster, and then they absolutely trivialize it. And then if you don't have those bosses, you might as well go.
There's a lot. There's 96 characters in Genshin, so I can list every single character that will get through this mechanic. There's a lot.
Yeah.
Mavwika, Sitlali, Arlecchino, Chevrez, Charlotte, Risley, Linny, Dea, Layla, Shenhe, Tomakana, Ayaka. I did it the other day. It was cool. Ganyu. Rosaria, Yanfei, Klee really well, actually. Not bad. Kaya, Bennett, Zhangling. That's the one or two.
Yeah, what if you don't want to play them?
So you don't want to play the characters that are good for the fight?
Well, no, what if you don't like being forced into playing specific units because you don't like them?
What is that? What do you mean? Like, you have to play certain characters to beat certain element checks. I don't understand.
Yeah. I think the fundamental argument is that I don't like being forced into using specific units just because the bosses have such a shield design that require the use of specific units to clear in a moderately acceptable way. Otherwise, I feel like I'm dragging my balls through
any of those units?
It's not a matter of not liking any of those units. It's the matter of being forced into using a specific archetype, a specific amount of ICD elemental application. Otherwise, like, you feel like you're just playing the game like an absolute idiot if you're not using them.
That's how all elemental lockout systems work in all games with elemental restrictions.
I don't think that's I don't think
use
that's
Chang-Li versus fusion resistant bosses and have a great time.
Yeah.
Is it easy? No, obviously it's way fucking harder.
But I can use Chang-Li against every other boss in the game, and she's gonna perform exactly the same against every boss that isn't fusion resistant.
Right. So there's no positive benefit to bringing those characters, but there are negative benefits.
Yeah,
right?
There's a negative benefit against like.
So I just listed a bunch of characters that do it. Those are the ones that did it easily. There are other ones that get through it as well. Those are the ones that are easy ones to get through. You can get through it on Zhao. You can get through it on Lanyan. It's possible to do it with Mizuki, Chaska. You can use. Let's keep going. Oh, Nebula can get through too if you use him with Sitlali or one of the other characters. But yeah, what's your favorite character in the game that you want to play against the Seahorse? Just name one.
I don't think the boss specifically, the Seahorse, really matters. I think it's just fundamentally, right?
No, no. You created an argument around a specific thing, and you're telling me that you can't play your favorite character versus it. I listed a larger character. You said, what if I don't want to play those characters? Who do you want to play then?
So think about it this way. The Seahorse boss has a baseline resistance to Electro, right?
Sure.
Why is it that I can't just use any other DPS that's simply not Electro against it? Why do I need all these specialized tools? All these like specialized tools in like units,
name the character you want to play so I can help you.
So you just said if I wanted to play New Valette, I actually don't have him, so we're just using it as an example, right?
Pick any character.
I need the Sitlali on my team. if I want to use
No,
the
no,
delay.
just name a character, dude. Name a character. What do you want to play?
I want to play Zhao against it.
Farazan, Farina, Zhao, Cloud Retainer works just fine in that fight. You can actually get through Electro Shields quite easily with Animo if you do it at the right times. If you are not a player that plays Zhao consistently, it's not really a recommended strategy because it is harder to play a character that's not suited for the situation. You can get through, it's just much more difficult. I did it earlier on my free-to-play account on a Farazan, Farina, Cloud Retainer, Zhao team.
So
Fully free-to-play.
So totally get that, right? I've got to go ahead and I gotta basically play the game like it's my job to be able to do that.
Not really.
And that's with a full premium team, right? Like that's basically
if you love
that's basically
Zhao,
4 or 5 stars with the C6 Farazan. I don't think you're clearing it without C6 Farazan, right?
Well, of course. Like if you don't have the appropriate team for your favorite character, you won't clear with any game. Unless you invest harder in your favorite character, you won't clear.
Let me show you what builds I use to 3-star. And I think it's pretty unilateral that we can see over here this brand is dog shit, right?
Okay, so let's just summarize. What's the point of this video here? To show how easy Tower of Adversity is?
To show that the endgame in Wuthering Waves is not an absolute disaster like it is in Genshin.
So it's easy enough for you to clear it with dog shit stuff?
It's not that it's easy enough to clear with dog shit stuff, it's that you can reasonably expect to clear if you play well, even with dog shit stuff, and it only gets easier the more you invest. The thing with Wuthering Waves is that you have so many different ways that you can clear. You can pay to win, you can do all of this stuff, right? But in Genshin,
so what's the problem with...
it's literally getting to a point where it's a character check.
What's the difference between that and Genshin?
Genshin has hard character and attribute checks. There's no real, like, you can say there's the skill check, sure, right? Because of like the Zhao example that you used, that's a skill check on top of having all the premium units. Even having
Wuthering
the
Waves
premium
is
team isn't
easier
enough.
than Genshin,
You have to sweat your balls off
so
at the
therefore
same
it's
time.
better?
The end game feels fair.
What?
The end game feels fair in Wuthering Waves. It doesn't feel like a roster check. It doesn't feel like, oh man, I'm not gonna be able to clear. I'm gonna have a terrible fucking time just because I didn't pull this type of unit or this specific unit. Even when you have the full best in slot team, the one you just gave an example, right, for the Zhao team, where you have the Cloud Retainer, the Farina, the C6 Farazan, and then the Zhao, that's basically, C6 Farazan is more expensive. Let's just be honest here. It's more expensive than a 5-star unit. And you're saying that to clear with that...
In the short term, that's true when a character first releases as a 4-star. In the long term, it's untrue. So Genshin Impact has a long-term thing where you're able to play it for very, very long time. Farazan's been out on a lot of different banners. If you were talking about Eonson, I can understand your argument. If you're talking about Chevres, I can understand your argument. Farazan has a lot of different banners for a lot of different things. It's like saying, hey, I don't have C6 Mortifay on my account, but I've been playing for 3 years.
Yeah, there's no content in the game that requires a C6 Mortifay.
Okay, so the game is easier.
So you use the term the game is easier instead of the term Genshin is making it simply more annoying or more inaccessible.
So when things are more annoying and less accessible, wouldn't that be more difficult?
No, because the difficulty disappears if you pull the on-banner character. The difference in difficulty between having the on-banner character, or really the element or the type of character being shilled, versus not having the on-banner character, you get a huge, you get a huge absurd difficulty spike.
What's the difference?
From not having the shield character?
I don't understand what you're trying to...
Once you get the shield character, there's no shield character in Wuwa. I guess that's the thing. There's no shield character or shield mechanic in Wuwa. There's no character that you pull in Wuwa, and the second you pull them, it's like the difficulty of the boss just falls off a cliff. Remember Pillar Man, the Pillar Mech? You pull Jalonin, 0 effort. You clear in your fucking sleep. You don't have Jalonin, it becomes an absolute
You want me to tell
nightmare.
you the list of characters that have mechanics that can climb the pillar?
Okay. You don't have those characters, it becomes a nightmare. That's the difference.
That argument is bullshit, by the way. Okay, literally every single player in Genshin owns Kachina, who is a free character that we have all received.
Yeah, I don't want to use a midget on my team.
That character is free.
I don't want to use her.
Every single player that did the event in Genshin owns Odoron. He's free this patch.
I don't want to use
the
him.
most owned character in Genshin Impact is named Kazuha. He jumps.
I don't want to use him. He's on the other
If you
side.
don't want to use him, it will be harder, but you can climb it.
Yeah, and I'm saying that being forced into using characters that I don't want to use is not fun.
You're not forced into using them. You can use what you want if you want to do it. It is just harder.
Yeah,
What's the problem?
and the thing is, that's what we're arguing. The fact that Genshin Impact shills certain types of characters, and if you basically essentially, if you don't use them, you have a dog shit time.
Okay.
And these are elements that are
What's the problem?
These are like outside
I don't
of
understand
elements.
specifically what the problem is. If there is a way to do what you need to do with every character in the game, what is the problem?
You wanna know what Wuwa does? There are
Sure.
certain bosses that are really fucking annoying unless you parry them multiple times.
No, I am aware. Yeah, Thunder Manifestation is an asshole, man.
Yeah,
If you
and
parry
then-
him at the right times, he's easy as fuck.
Absolutely, right? And so you simply just take your team that you like using. You don't feel like you're forced into using characters, and you just simply parry with
You
that
know what
team.
Wuthering Waves does, though? It's really cool. They introduced these new characters called, Peeps and Zanny. And what you're going to be able to do is stun lock the boss so he doesn't even have mechanics at range. You know what we didn't have when Thunder Manifestation came out? We didn't have characters that attacked at range effectively besides Chichia. So one of the biggest content creators in Wuthering Waves is Genized. And what he does is he does just Doge with a ranged DPS character. Solo, Chichia.
Yeah, so he's using
Like-
what he wants.
Yeah, exactly. So he can, right? You can do the same thing in Genshin. You know what the number 10 most used team is in Genshin Impact for CN?
No, because no, I
Solo
don't.
Risley. Solo C1 Risley. People do what they want to here.
I'm not sure how solo clears relate to the discussion.
If you are good enough, you can play what you want. If you're not good enough, you can't. I don't really understand the problem. It's a video game with an end game set of difficulty, and you are trying to beat hard content. If you're good enough, you can do it. If you're not, you can't. What's the problem?
So you're saying that the fact that there's an absurd difficulty spike from not using the shield characters, that's okay. Just play better.
That's how all video games are, dude. Like, if you wanted to play, let's just use Elden Ring as an example for a hard game, and you wanted to play a naked butt-ass run and play a parry build with a buckler, kick a dude off a cliff, you could. If you wanted to have an easy child clear and just like have an easy time going through it, you can use a bunch of summons, magic, and just clap cheeks. There's a lot of different ways of doing the same thing. And the fun is in figuring out which one is the most fun to you. If you want to play a specific character in Genshin Impact and make it an unga bunga clear for the game, you can. There are many characters that can do that. If you want to pick one, you can. If you want to keep losing, you don't pick the hard character. You pick the easier character. The nuts and bolts of that is because your skill isn't proficient enough to do well.
So I think the big point that you're missing over here is that these characters
You want to
cost-
win without difficulty?
No, these characters cost money, and in
I can
Elden
do it
Ring,
free to play, but
everything
okay.
is free.
Everything's free for Wuthering Waves?
Yeah, everything is no. I literally just said Elden Ring. Why are we bringing in Wuwa? We're going off your
Okay,
Elden
wait.
Ring example.
I didn't
Everything
hear
in-
what you said. Sorry, it was an audio glitch.
Okay. Everything in Elden Ring is free.
Sure.
You can just choose whatever you want because it's free, right?
Sure. But
And
it takes
it-
lots of time and resources to then invest into the builds that you want to in Elden Ring, right?
Well, yeah, because everything in the game is free once you buy it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
same thing's true here. You spend a lot of time and resources in what you want to play.
Yeah, and Genshin Impact, most people, if they want to have the freedom to choose at the same level that, in the example Elden Ring, if you want the freedom to choose your builds
Gacha
and
banners.
choose your
You're
difficulty.
conflating an argument about gacha banners and you're saying Genshin's the problem when every game that's a gacha game does this. Okay.
No,
I
I'm
understand what
saying
you're trying to say.
we literally just made the big differences very clear in Wuthering Waves between Genshin Impact. We just listed out how Genshin Impact has shield bosses, shield mechanics, shield elements, where if you don't go ahead and you don't pull the right thing or you don't have the right character for this shield boss mechanic, you have a dog shit time. You have an awful time. And as a result of that awful time, you have to invest an incredible amount of time into perfecting the team's rotations, perfecting and doing all of this stuff.
You know what the
And-
most used phrase for people in the Genshin community is when it comes to difficulty? Is this. Genshin Impact is an easy game, play who you want. It is one of the most used phrases in the entire community. So to now say that Genshin is more difficult because you have to choose what you want for endgame content is now a problem. So you're saying that it's a problem because you're not able to clear. Okay, so do you want it to be harder or do you want it to be easier?
You want the game to feel balanced. and you don't want the game to feel like it's going to be a dog shit
What's the
experience
balance you're
unless you
referring to?
pull the newest units.
What's the balance you're referring to, so we can understand your point of view?
How about you simply don't have Giga Shield mechanics that if you don't have the Shield unit, it feels like shit, and you simply up the baseline difficulty of things if you want stuff to get harder.
What's the difficulty baseline increase that you're talking about? Be more specific.
I don't know. The boss's HP not doubling since version 4.5?
No, I didn't say what you didn't want. What do you want?
The boss HP not to double since 4.5.
So you want the HP not to go higher. Great. So what makes it more difficult then?
The boss's HP doubling in 7 patches.
No. I'm asking what you personally want as a difficulty increase to the game. You say you don't want something, but I'm asking what would you want instead?
A mechanic that every unit on the roster can interact with to defeat the boss versus a mechanic that only a quarter or even less of the roster can interact with. I'll bring up ZZZ as an example of a good mechanic in the fight that increases difficulty without shilling a certain element. The armored dog, that if you parry it 3 times or stun it, its armor falls off and it becomes way more vulnerable to damage. That's an amazing example of a boss that is designed well and is designed in a way that the entire roster can access the mechanics versus Genshin, where it's like, okay, you don't have something that can climb, go fuck yourself.
Everybody can climb it, though.
Yeah, if I look up a guide on how to climb things in Genshin Impact, but I'm not gonna fucking do that because I have self-respect.
I don't understand that point of view, but okay. So here's what it is, man. So if you don't want to learn how to do anything, you don't want to learn how to play the game, but
I don't want to learn bullshit mechanics that the devs are putting in to sell the newer characters.
Okay, so you don't.
I don't
want
to feel forced to interact
mechanics
with bullshit that I know is bullshit. I'm not gonna cope and say it's not bullshit because the devs are intentionally designing things that feel like
you
shit.
want them to put in a parry mechanic into the game for Genshin?
Yeah, fuck it. Why not?
Okay, that would be cool.
Yeah, it would be cool.
They have that. It's beta, but you know it sucks. That would be cool if they did a better one.
I'm saying it's like a boss. It will do an attack. And then if you time your attack at the right time as the boss is doing it, then it like gets stunned or something, and then that's how its vulnerability stage occurs. Versus,
no, that's actually happens in Genshin too. They have that.
Yeah, so why is that not in the Abyss right now?
No, they have that.
Okay, why is it not in the Abyss right now?
It is in the Abyss right now. You literally hit the 2 things on top of the pillars at the right time and they break the boss. If you talk about how to like break the boss to like mechanics, you basically will do the thing on Tulpa where you kill the small tulpas at the right time so it stuns itself, and then you can kill the boss a lot easier.
Okay, yeah, the tulpas die from everything that isn't Hydro. Yeah, no, the tulpa basically is, I don't think the tulpa's that bad. I just think the tulpa has too much HP and deals too much damage. The main complaint isn't about the tulpa because pretty much every element in the game can deal with the tulpa except Hydro.
Yeah, so I mean, so what's the problem with the other boss? Every character in the game can get through
because
that one too.
Every element, I don't need to use any specific character. I can use every unit in the game that isn't Hydro to kill the tulpa.
Okay, so what's the problem with the other boss? Is it too limiting or like what? What's the problem?
Because I can't use every unit in the game to do that.
Because they don't do enough damage or what?
Because I cannot climb the pillar without specific units.
Like Kazuha or the free character they gave us, or like every character in the game can climb it without watching a guy. Like I don't like if there's a way for you to do it and it's fully free to play and everyone can do it. What's the problem?
Because it's a pain. Like, it's intentionally designed to be a pain in the ass. It is
what
you know that it's intentionally designed to be a pain in the ass.
Okay, so
there is
so
no
you
other
want
way
it
to
be a
those
really
pillars.
easy climb. So you wish it was an easier climb. Okay.
Not even easier. I just don't want it to be obviously meant to shill a unit like Shilonen.
Okay. So
it doesn't even need to be there.
So a normal pillar for you to climb. That would fix everything if it was just a normal pillar.
It's an obtuse to climb pillar that obviously shills the newest character on top of the HP doubling.
If it wasn't a not long character only like easy climb, whatever, that would fix the problem for you.
Don't even make it a pillar. Just make it 2 things you need to hit. You know what's really funny about that boss?
Like
those pillars immediately die from any contact. You don't even have to deal damage to them. You simply need to hit them and they disappear.
Yeah.
Why would they put a mechanic like that in the game where the pillars don't even have HP? They just blow up the second you hit them with anything. And then the only obstacle is getting up them.
I'm honestly really trying hard to understand what the problem actually is. It seems like you have like
they're
a lot of
making
different
endgame,
issues.
they're making bosses, they're making the entire game either feel like a chore or feel like a headache or feel like dog shit unless you pull the newest units.
Oh, I see. You're not having fun while playing the game.
Yet that boss is not. Do you think that boss is fun?
Hard bosses inherently aren't fun unless you get them on farm. Like any game, like if you're not farming, if you don't know how to fight a boss correctly, you're just not having fun. Unless
Why
you're,
is
like,
that boss hard?
learning it. Why is it hard?
Yeah.
Because it has a mechanic that limits you from doing damage at all times. Typically, what you said earlier was you're able to DPS every single boss in the game without trying, and that's why Genshin's bad, because you just have to learn the rotations a couple times, and then you just walk through everything.
And then as a
So
counterpoint,
the second they put anything in that's a counterplay to your unga bunga strategy of just spam left click, now it's not okay. So
I literally
fight that's kind of like where the
let's
enemies are
time out
hitting
right
you
there.
at
Let's
the
time
same
out
time,
right there real fast. So I'm just gonna put a stop to
I didn't
that.
say I liked the design
I'm gonna
of this
put a
boss in
stop to what you
particular.
just said right there because I literally brought up the example from ZZZ of like a good built-in boss mechanic.
Yeah, I was
with,
trying to get to
with
that
damage
point. I'm trying to get to that point. I'm trying to get there.
Yeah. So let's not go ahead and say that it's a problem simply from having a mechanic. The problem is having the mechanic that's inaccessible to a wide majority of the roster. That is the problem.
Not inaccessible. That's a fake argument, man. Like, it's obviously not inaccessible.
If I need
you
to,
can do it
if
on
I
every
need
character
to
in the
watch
game,
a
it's not
guide
inaccessible.
on how to climb a pillar, it is not accessible. If I need to
can't
watch
do
a
something,
guide,
the first thing you do is watch a guide.
if I need to
It's
watch a
everywhere.
guide on how to climb something in Genshin Impact, that is inaccessible. Climbing is a
To
baseline
who?
mechanic that you're introduced to in Genshin Impact within like the first 5 minutes of the game. And I am not
Cool.
able to climb the pillar without a guide on how to fucking find the right angle. And there's a different angle and a different ledge for every character model type. And there are some model types like Chlorind that can't even climb it in the first place. So it is inaccessible.
So you have 4 characters in your team. You press the number 1 on your keyboard and switch to a character that can climb it. Oh god.
And so now I have to
So
memorize the precise geography, the precise fucking geological structure of the rocks to memorize and keep in mind which angle I am able to approach from based off the character model type. Is that not just a
couple
complete
different ways of
pain
doing
in
it.
the ass that doesn't really need to be there? It's now like
I didn't say there was a great
it's a memory
mechanic
check
that was
of
like the best thing ever.
It's like a memory check of like how can I remember what angle the rock looks like from like the approach. That's just a chore. It's just a pain in the ass. And the idea is that
so you don't like the pillars. Right? The pillars aren't cool. I got it. They're not pretty enough, and they don't have like flashy enough mechanics.
no,
and they're just standing
it's
there. I
the
get it.
matter of the devs are intentionally putting stuff in the game that makes you fucking just be annoyed as fuck and have to do shit that's super fucking annoying. And then you buy the newest character, Jalonen, and you just press E, and you're like, whoop, and you're up there. It's basically adding quality of death to the game instead of quality of life. Adding quality of death to the game. And then pulling the newest character removes it. It's not about quality of life where your gameplay becomes better after pulling the character. The game is unplayable, and then you pull the character, and then it becomes playable.
Because you don't want to learn the boss gimmick and learn how to.
It's not
fight
about
against
learning the boss. It's about the boss gimmick being
You literally just said, I don't wanna learn how to do it. What do you
unacceptably
mean?
a pain in the ass.
Right, so it's a pain in the ass because you
Okay,
don't
so
want to learn how to do
Sekapoko.
it.
So you know what a Keurig is, right?
The coffee machine?
Yeah.
Sure.
So let's just say there's a Keurig, right, that you have at your house. And then unless you use a specific type of coffee cup or a coffee brand, you basically have to put in a 30-key passcode to get your coffee in the morning unless you use a specific type of pod. And if you use the right Keurig pod, you can just make your coffee right away.
Or you can just get an older Keurig.
Does that mean you just want easy mode? You just don't want to learn the mechanic.
That's just another way of doing it, man. There's a lot of different ways of doing different
you just don't
things.
want to learn the mechanic.
But that's not a video game. That's an inconvenience life tool. You could sit there and complain about an issue, but if there is a solution,
Yeah,
you
just
can
learn
blame
the
the
30-key
system
passcode.
looking down on you, or you can just fix the problem.
Yeah, learn the 30 key
Like, I
passcode.
personally stopped focusing on all the things that are like super problematic in all things in life, and just try to fix the problem.
Yeah,
okay?
learn the 30 key passcode.
No, I didn't learn the 30 key passcode. I got an older Keurig, so I didn't have to deal with that, which is a way easier solution.
Yeah, and I just uninstall Genshin Impact and I don't fucking play it. I just play Wuwa instead. That's the easier solution.
Yeah, it's an easier game, so I understand. I mean, you said so yourself, right?
I think you're conflating difficulty with quality of death. I think you're really conflating the two. I think you're getting the definitions a bit wrong.
Okay.
That's called artificial difficulty.
Okay, artificial difficulty is self-imposed difficulty.
No, it's developer-imposed difficulty.
No, that would actually be actual difficulty. Artificial difficulty is when you self-impose difficulty. There are two different things. Developer-imposed difficulty is when the developers want you to have a harder time, so the game that you play is difficult. Artificial difficulty is when you put a restriction on yourself in order to have a harder time because it's too easy.
Is there like proof for this, or like is this like napkin definition? Is Merriam-Webster like is you got somebody from Merriam-Webster feeding you this?
Well, look up artificial difficulty on your own, I guess. I am not your thesaurus or dictionary. I mean,
all right, let's look
if
it
you
up.
If you want to call artificial difficulty that way, you can do that too. So if that's artificial difficulty, what is real difficulty?
Artificial difficulty in video games refers to increases in difficulty that are not primarily based on a player's skill or strategic thinking, but instead on arbitrary or forced mechanics.
So on arbitrary or forced mechanics, what I was saying is true. Arbitrary mean you chose.
No, half the shit in Genshin Impact is just an arbitrary or forced mechanic.
Okay, so you want to use it from that perspective. Okay. So let's just say that you're correct on your definition. We'll use your definition.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll use your definition and say artificial difficulty is when the developers make it too hard on specific.
No, it's when the developers add
characters.
Bullshit into the game. Yeah, sure.
Let's use that as the definition.
That makes it unplayable unless you're putting in specific characters. Yeah.
I already said sure. Let's move on. We can use your definition. Okay. So what is actual difficulty?
When I view actual difficulty, I think about interacting with gameplay mechanics that are accessible to every single character. Think about consecrated beasts. Actual difficulty.
I see.
Consecrated
so this is what you're
beasts are
defining.
actual
Okay,
difficulty.
so now we have agreed upon terms for your difficulty rating. So the difficulty rating of a game to you in definitions is a fight that anyone can do, and it's passable for any character. And artificial difficulty is a limitation based on restrictions to certain characters. Am I understanding your definition?
Restrictions based on certain characters, or mechanics that only certain characters are able to basically meaningfully deal with. Yeah, sure. I think that combined one is pretty fair.
Okay, so your definition is of artificial. We'll use that. Okay, so an artificial difficulty is inconvenient by the way that you've defined it. Okay, it is inconvenient to any player because it is annoying to summon for more characters. Based on how you're defining it, yes, that is very different. Okay, it's a matter of definitions. Okay, so in your definition, yes, you're correct. Now, your actual difficulty definition, well, what would make it more difficult then?
So, this is the thing. The reason why people call Genshin Impact a baby game is that it has very few actual mechanics that you can use. Every character has basically around 3 inputs. They have their attack, well, I guess your heavy attack if you count it as a different one. They have the attack, heavy attack, jump, elemental skill, elemental burst, and dodge. That's basically it. That's all you have to do. And why people call it a little bit more layered than that, but sure, let's go with that. Yeah, the reason why people call it a low difficulty game is that the less inputs you have, the less difficulty you're able to like really put into the baseline design, other than making things hit harder or other than making things have more HP, right?
Sure.
You can't really do much beyond that. Think of a game like Tetris. It only has like 4 buttons, right? Tetris only has like 4 buttons. It's a bit like Genshin. And the only way to make Tetris harder is to just make it faster. And the way that Genshin Impact deals with difficulty is they just make things have more HP or they deal more damage. And they refuse to put mechanics into the game that you can actually interact with meaningfully. Imagine...
So what you want is the pacing of the game to be faster?
No, I want there to be... If we're asking about like real difficulty in Genshin Impact, I think that ship has sailed, unfortunately. It's a little bit rough. The only way that they're able to add difficulty
there's no possibility of improvement in Genshin to the way that you would want it. And You are saying that everything they've done is artificial in forms of difficulty, and
It's
that's
the
not
only
okay.
difficulty in the game is the character checks. That's it. Lectors,
Okay.
they're hard because they have shields.
Okay, so your point of view is you don't like character checks and you don't like element checks.
Yeah, they're awful. I don't think very many people like them at all.
Okay, I don't like that shit in WoW. It's fucking annoying. I don't like element checks in WoW. It makes me really
the
pissed
only
off.
elemental
Like, oh,
check
fuck.
you have in WoW is that you have a damage debuff if you use a character's element against a boss with the same element.
Yes,
That's the
same as Genshin.
Yeah, that's the only one, and it's not the same as Genshin because Genshin goes way beyond that with elemental shields and shit.
Okay,
Way
so
different.
now they're not your. So now with elemental shields, that's a problem. Okay, so what's the problem with elemental shields?
What isn't a
like, from
problem?
your point of view.
What isn't a problem with elemental shields?
Just give me your point of view of what you like, what you don't like about it, just so I understand. I don't understand your point of view, so you have to tell me.
They all take different types of damage from different attributes. It's not like WoW at all, where a Spectro boss will take the same damage from everything that isn't Spectro. And an elemental shield takes differing amounts of damages.
Positive interactions with elements. You only like negative interactions with elements, and that's the only way it's fine. All right.
Yeah, that feels way more balanced across the entire roster, and it doesn't feel like you need to shill a character.
So you would like to have less character lockouts through an elemental system, so you have more character access to do the mechanics in the game for your endgame fights. Am I understanding you correctly?
We're all saying that the difficulty in a game is instead based off of the actions that the bosses are doing versus who you're fucking slotting into in the character select screen.
When looking at your point of view, you don't like it when Genshin introduces difficulty in the artificial form, which again is when they introduce character lockouts. You don't like elemental shields because they feel too restrictive, and those types of restrictions aren't fun to play against. Okay, when it comes to combat, the entire reason that people liked the combat of Genshin Impact was the elemental system and the interesting interactions between elements. That was a fun experience for many people. It was a new, fun system. Now, Wuthering Waves is more based on aggressive combat with dodging and parrying at different times with feints and parries. Different systems in the game allow you to have different fun by you using things in different ways. Wuthering Waves, however, is not really a team-oriented game, and it's more of a skill check versus different bosses. So instead of having a character check, there's a skill check in order to learn specific bosses' mechanics. Each game has its merits when it comes to how you can have fun in the games. And each game can be made easier by either spending more money or by getting better at the game and using the right characters. For example, if I was using Brant in order to beat content, I can beat content easier I can with Brant solo than I can with Changli solo. Why? Because Brant got a shield and a heal, and that makes it easier for holograms. Okay, it's fine to do that. However, if I wanted to have a much harder time and learn every last thing and every last dodge, I would use Changli and try to beat it. Okay, or I can use Danjin. There are different ways of doing the same thing. Now, each fight has its different types of difficulties. One is character check, which you don't like, and one is a skill check, which a lot of other people don't like. Some people don't like doing a just dodge check. Some people like doing a character check and team composition creation check. They like creating different fun teams to get through content and liking to see the efforts of a lot of different characters interact in different ways. Whereas in Wuthering Waves, the most difficult content is oriented around your ability to dodge and parry at the right time. It is just a different way of experiencing fun difficulty for different people.
Are we kind of just saying that holograms are like the only game mode in the game at this point?
TOA is kind of a joke. Let's be real. When you walk through TOA, it's pretty easy to get through TOA with max level characters with 4-star weapons. It's not very, very difficult. It's pretty much how you've described Spiral Abyss for the majority of Spiral Abyss up to the most recent one, right? I have played TOA and gotten 30 stars in a lot of TOAs. And when I quit Wuthering Waves and then came back, I had a tough time. But then very next TOA, I was 30 starring. I'm easily getting through fully free to play, and it's not really that bad. Okay, I have a great time when playing TOA and bumping through, but it's not very difficult. It's pretty much the same as most Spiral Abysses in Genshin as far as how difficult content goes. Whimpering Waste, I was really a fan of. I haven't tried the new one yet. I probably will try it later, but I didn't really like the first two and wasn't having a good time. Because I wasn't having a good time, like yourself, I didn't do them. But I didn't complain about the game as a whole being kind of
Let me-
predatory toward Rokia, though. It's a very different situation. I wouldn't say, by the way, game's predatory because Whimpering Race is ass, and it's predatory for people that, you know, didn't get Rokia or didn't get Jihad. And that seems like a bit unfair, right? So that's kind of what you're doing right now, and it feels a bit unfair.
What feels unfair?
What do you mean?
You do realize that Kuro's actually already taken the feedback?
Yeah, I know, and I haven't tried the newest one yet. I was going to try it later.
And this current reset probably has to be one of like the most. I'm pretty sure you can use anybody and score for the max points in this version of
Yeah,
Wu.
that's exactly what I said.
Yeah, and so it's these developers fixed the game mode and made it accessible and didn't make it feel like a character check, and
But it did before, right?
not particularly if you were willing to learn your teams and learn your rotations.
Okay, so the exact same as this Abyss and Genshin.
No, it's not the same as this Abyss in Genshin. This Abyss in Genshin is adding HP inflation on top of the boss mechanics.
The bosses do self-damage, so they need more HP because they hit themselves to like 600, 700k when you break the things.
What?
Yeah, they do self-damage, bro.
Who self-damages themselves? The horse?
The racist pillar boss you're talking about.
The racist pillar boss has a 60% damage reduction unless you break the pillars.
And if you break the pillars, it does damage to itself.
They do true. Oh, okay, so that's offsetting its 60% DR.
The 60% DR is like now increased damage taken when the pillars are down. So you have to save your DPS
so
for when that's down.
I'm pretty sure the true damage, if it does deal damage, is offsetting the fact that the boss was taking 60% had 60% reduction before
Okay, so if I'm
that.
fighting Hakate and I'm trying to do DPS on Hakate when she's doing her bitch spin movement thing, and I die because I'm trying to do damage at the wrong time, how is that different than the 60% damage reduction? You're just doing DPS at the wrong time. You got to wait for the boss to be broken to then like kill the boss and do your DPS window.
Yeah,
It's just a different
Hakate
timing.
is not in time limited content.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's not time limited
Just
for
longer.
rewards content like TOA or Spiral Abyss.
Okay, so let's just say that you are doing an easier boss. Let's just say Dragon of Dirge or something, and they put that in the TOA. Wouldn't you want to focus your time on the DPS when the enemy's broken?
The bosses don't particularly take additional damage when they're broken. They simply become
do, though.
immobile.
Yeah, so then you can do your DPS window when they're immobile.
Yeah,
And
you can
then
also
dodge
deal
or
your
run away.
DPS window while the boss is moving too.
Or you can get interrupted in the middle of a brand anchor and fly away from the enemy. And
You could
go,
also
why are you
just-
fucking dodging my anchor, bro?
Yeah, you could also just swap cancel off of Brand's anchor so it's guaranteed to hit.
Yeah, so you can get better at the game so that you actually have the mechanics work for you.
Yeah, and that's all doing it just based off the enemy in the fight versus me pulling a character, right, that specifically says immune to Dragon of Dirge's attacks, like how Jalonin is just immune to the pillars because she just runs up them and fucking breaks them immediately.
I mean, there's another way of actually. So, do you know that you don't even need to break the pillars? There are people that wallet warrior their way through it without doing the mechanics, which makes it easier. Free to play and budget players have to perform the mechanics.
I don't think we need to get into like the whale wars and like damaging and doing enough damage to clear through 60% DR. The fact of the matter is, in Wuwa, right, your actions on the battlefield matter more than your actions in the character select screen. And in Genshin, there is
that's the problem. You don't like team building. I see.
No, it's not team building. No, that's not even close to what I was saying. It's literally that, like, I don't even know where team building came from. Your actions in the battlefield,
You said the character select screen, which is the team building section.
No, we're talking about the character select screen in terms of fucking Jalonin being an absolute way easier experience, way more simple experience, basically not a pain in the ass against that boss. Because she just walks up the pillar. That's what we're saying. And I think at this point, right, the fact that we're conflating it all the way to team building and that I simply don't want to build a roster and that I guess we're leaning into the whole Oonga Boonga thing, I feel like this is kind of just making the case, right, that I think we're just going around in circles right now, to be honest.
Okay, so what you don't like is to build the correct team for the fights, no matter what team it would be for which character.
The right unit for the fight. Because that unit is the one being shilled on banner.
So you don't want to get Shalonin. Cool.
I don't want to feel
I
like
don't
I'm
own
being
Shalonin on my
forced
free-to-play
into
account, and I
using
have
specific
5
units against the
different
boss
teams that are getting
mechanic.
through it really easily. I even did a clear on it with no not-long characters and just older characters on a free-to-play account.
So this is the
Now,
thing. So
now I'm not allowed to do that. So like the problem is you don't like difficulty that's based upon team compositions. You like difficulty that's based upon dodging and parrying in a fight. and that's
No,
great.
that's
one of
not-
the fun
that's
things
not,
about
That's
WoW.
not what we're saying here. What we're saying here,
And you don't like the
fundament-
mechanic of the pillar, right?
What we're saying here fundamentally is that we don't like shield boss mechanics that are heavily pushing you to slot in a type of character or to pull on the limited banner just to make the experience not feel like shit. The experience at a baseline feels like fucking garbage unless you pull these units. And guess what? There are a lot of bosses in WoWa that feel like garbage if you don't interact with their mechanics. But the thing is, every character in the game can interact with the mechanics that are in WoWa. Every
Alright,
character
so
in the game
without,
can interact
without using
with
a hydro resistant enemy check or whatever, like no hydro and Tulpa, obviously. What is a mechanic in Genshin that has the problem that you're describing?
What?
Is there a boss fight that has that? Because everything that you said is that you have to get it or it feels like ass. But you can also get through it with the other characters and make it not feel like ass by doing it in a different way. But if you don't want to learn a new boss fight mechanic, then it does feel like ass because the team you're using isn't being used appropriately, and that sucks. So what you want is to have an easier time with a shittier team.
No, I want the fight to feel like it's balanced around the enemies and good decision making versus balanced around having a specific type of character on the team.
Yeah, so again, like I said, you want the fights to not be around team composition creation and
not team
be about
composition
live combat with
around
dominant players.
one specific mechanic that only certain characters in the game have, and then making it so that the boss fight feels like shit unless you forcefully slot that character in.
But every character can get through it, though, so I'm not understanding the problem.
Yeah, and that's the key word, feels like shit.
So it feels shit to use the other characters. So the problem is that Shilling should not be able to climb the pillar easily.
Yeah, it's back to artificial difficulty.
Okay, that's not artificial difficulty, because if anybody can do it, it's fine.
No,
based on your definition.
No, we're not going there. I'm putting my foot down on that one.
All right, fine. Let's just say you don't like that Shilling can do it easily, and the not-long characters can do it easily, and you don't want to learn how to do it on the other characters.
I don't like that they're putting mechanics like that in the fucking game. Not that
I understand that.
Yeah, that's what we don't like here.
Okay, so that's fine to not like that. There's no problem with disliking a hard mechanic or a mechanic that adds
It's not a hard
layer
mechanic. It's an artificial difficulty mechanic.
Okay, so then you want it to
Nothing's
be a more
hard about
live
pulling
combat
Shalonin and
Okay,
then
so you
pressing
want a
E
more
and
live
then
combat
one-shotting
experience,
the pillars.
I see.
That's not hard.
Okay, so you want it to be a more live combat experience that doesn't revolve around mechanics in a boss fight, and you want it to parry at specific times, like in Zenless Zone Zero and in Wuthering Waves. And when those fights have a more live combat experience at the right times,
You
then
don't even
are
have to
able
bring
kill
in
them
specific
easier.
examples like parrying or dodging or any of that. It's just mechanics that are not inaccessible unless you're pulling certain characters. It's about having mechanics that you can use regardless of who you have on the roster. That's the thing. Difficulty like that is fine as long as you are making it so that it isn't obviously shilling certain fucking units.
Okay, so you don't want it to look like it's shilling a specific character. Got it. Okay, so the problem is that they can never create a mechanic for a new character to easily get through, while other characters will have a more difficult time, but they get through. That's your issue with it, correct?
Just put in mechanics that are new and fresh, but not limited to certain members of the roster.
What new fresh mechanic are we talking about?
I literally just gave the example of like the ZZZ with the parry dog. I'm certain.
Well, I talked about them and then you said not to talk about them, so now I'm confused.
Okay, what I told you not to talk about was me saying that I don't like mechanics at all. That's what I said. And
Okay,
this is the thing.
so-
I've already given an example of one mechanic that's done well, right? That every character in the game can access and use. You know, actually, the Papilla? The Papilla would have actually been good if it wasn't so obviously shilled towards Night Soul, where it
Okay.
has like a meter that builds up just from like taking damage or whatever. And then if you don't, it explodes and blows you up. The fact, if that wasn't obviously so shilled towards Night Soul points, and like having Natline characters to break it faster, that would have actually been a pretty good mechanic. like a time limit to like to fill up some meter on the boss. And the fact that it's obviously so shield towards Natlan is what makes it a problem. But if it wasn't,
so you don't want it to be easier when you have a specific character. That's the problem. Yes.
You're really generalizing it to such a high degree when I'm giving you specific examples.
I know. So you're saying it would have been a good mechanic.
Well, I guess I'm glad you recognize that you're doing it.
I'm not recognizing that I am being unfair. What I'm saying is I am trying to understand what your point of view is and what your problem with the gimmick is, and you're pivoting over like a lot of different things. So I'm trying to understand you, so just focus on one thing at a time. I'm not
pivoting. What I'm doing is I'm bringing specific examples of pretty much every single thing that I'm talking about. I'm bringing specific examples of specific mechanics.
So you got a specific example, and I'm trying to understand your example.
You're basically generalizing them into like a phrasing that makes it seem like I'm trying to talk about more things than I am.
Okay, say
you've done that. You've actually done that maybe 3 or 4 times on the call. I'm gonna be real here. I give you a really specific example, and then you generalize and like break it down into like rudimentary language to make my specific example apply to more things than what I'm actually saying. Don't worry, I've recognized it.
Okay.
That's why I'm not letting you talk every time it happens. What is the problem with that when it ties
into your other arguments?
What?
What's the problem with doing said thing?
Because I mentioned that I don't like a specific mechanic being shilled, and then you say, so you don't like team building. I say that I want a mechanic, right?
Oh, okay, so I'm simplifying it too much.
Where it's like a shield where everybody can damage it, and that I just don't want the Papilla shield to be shilled towards Natlan. And then you generalize it to, oh, so you don't want characters being better at specific things.
They're trying to understand you. It's not a gotcha. I'm trying to understand you. Okay? So what you're trying to say is I don't like when mechanics are shielded toward Natlan characters. Specifically, what you said. I am trying to understand the deeper meaning to what you are saying. So in understanding the deeper meaning,
this is the deeper meaning. I don't like obtuse and annoying fucking mechanics to be put into the game that are obviously only being used to sell the newest characters. And that once you pull the newest characters and pull them, then all of the annoying stuff disappears.
Great. So you would like them to be the same level of difficulty for all of the characters,
I would like the game to be balanced.
You would like the game to be balanced around what?
Balanced in a way where they're not obviously shilling the newest on-banner characters, because the amount of shilling they've done in Natlan is absurd.
Greedy in that regard.
Because the game makes billions of dollars every year. The game has gone ahead. They've inflated HP. And that wasn't enough, right? Now they're making it so that the newest bosses, the newest endgame, all the new content is a pain in the fucking dick. Exploring Natlan, pain in the dick, unless you pull all the newest characters.
I think it's only a pain in the dick to explore a region that's pretty much the same as the other regions if you don't want to get the newer character at all. And then you get to look at everybody else using the newer character. If you don't get the newer character, how would you know it's a pain in the ass? Again, for understanding, you do not like mechanics that are in, I guess we'll put it in a blanket term here, predatory. Is that a better way of saying it? I'm trying to understand your point of view. You've used specific examples of the word, I'm just trying to understand it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's basically a summary of this whole thing. This Abyss is super predatory. This Abyss is basically catered and designed around being as annoying as fucking possible, simply due to the existence of certain bosses. And then on top of the bosses existing, where the newest on-banner character makes it of absolute fucking breeze to interact with the mechanics, they are doubling the HP in 7 versions. I think that's basically like the same stuff that I've been saying. I think I'm not particularly sure. It's like, it seems like we've been like going around in a couple of circles to just like kind of like, I don't know, I guess like simplify and break it down. I think it's pretty cut and paste, to be honest. This Abyss is definitely the most predatory one that they've ever had. It's clearly designed to be, again, you're saying that it's much more difficult. I agree. Right, I agree that this Abyss is much more difficult because it has double the HP of the one that we've had less than a year ago. Thanks for taking the time.
All right, you take care, Saint. You have a great day.
You too, man. I'm gonna get some water. Peace out.